If you're an athlete who's been plagued by recurring injuries, you're probably not alone. And there probably are some really, really tangible reasons why it's happening. In this episode of the podcast, I'm going to actually lay out for you guys the top reasons that drive these recurring injuries, their genesis, and then more importantly, what you can do about it, how you can solve this problem, break the pattern, break the cycle once and for all. Tune in, guys. Take notes.
Welcome to the CrossFit Edwardsville Community Podcast, where we hear and learn from our coaches, CrossFitters, and Glen Ed community leaders. Now, here are your hosts, Dallas and Greg.
As you guys probably know, I'm not just a CrossFit coach. I also have my doctorate in physical therapy. And there are just some things that tend to be the major drivers of recurring little injuries that happen here and there. And if you're an athlete, if you've been an athlete for any period of time, if you've been active for any space of time, this is just a practical reality of being a very active person. Is you're going to have little tweaks and little issues with this muscle, that joint from here to there. And most of them fully resolve on their own, which is great news. Usually, like, you'll have a little thing here that bothers you, and then it goes away and never comes back. You kind of forget that it ever happened. But this episode is intended to address the recurring things. If you've got this thing with your shoulder that keeps coming back, if you got this thing with your knee that keeps coming back, why is that? What's causing that? The good news is I've got some answers for you, not just from a CrossFitter perspective, but really, like, if you're a combat athlete, if you're a runner, there are certain things that tend to drive these recurring injuries. I'm going to lay them out for you here in this episode of the podcast. So let's get right into it. First, let's start by saying it's probably not the movement itself. It's how you're moving. See, CrossFit doesn't cause injuries. Running doesn't cause injuries. Biking doesn't cause injuries. Poor movement patterns done repeatedly do cause injury. When your form starts to slip or degrade and you let it go, you don't address it because of ego, because of poor coaching, because of fatigue or whatever, that's when you get yourself into trouble state. And more likely than not, there are certain movements that you do on a regular basis. If you're any kind of exerciser that's been consistent with exercise at all, there are probably movements that you do regularly, habitually, and there's a very good chance that you're having an issue because you're not addressing movement quality. Your coach may have even told you many times, you got to make this adjustment with how you exercise. You got to make this change. Hey, do this to do the movement better. If you're the smile and nod factory, you hear, yep, I hear you, coach. Great. Thanks for the suggestion. And you go right back doing what you're doing. It's not the deadlift's fault, okay? It's your fault for not making the adjustment. This is true for everybody. Master the basics. Respect your mechanics. Under load, under no load, and at all intensities, get the movement right first. The foundation is great movement. If you have any questions on what that looks like, or if you're doing it right, ask a coach, including one of our CrossFit coaches. That is number one. Number two, maybe you're training harder than you're recovering. Overtraining is a major injury trigger, but under recovery is just as bad because your muscles can recover quickly from a lot of stuff. Sometimes your tendons, your ligaments, your joints don't recover quite as quickly, and they may need more time. See, most of these nagging recurrent injuries don't come from one bad rep, although they can, but most of the time they don't come from one bad rep. They come from chronic overuse of a thing without sufficient recovery treatment. Recovery is a treatment you give your body, and your body needs it. So you have to respect your recovery. This is prioritizing sleep. It's doing the deload weeks, which we actually program in here at CrossFit Edwardsville. It's actually doing the mobility work. It's showing up early enough to fully participate in the warm-up of class and actually do the mobility before the workout, after the workout, and nutrition. All of these things matter in the recovery. Like if you're throwing a lot of inflammatory nonsense into your gut, your body is going to respond with inflammatory responses to the processed, sugary, high glycemic nonsense you throw in there, right? So all of this is a consideration in your recovery as well. Let's go to number 3. Next, number 1 is probably how you're moving that is driving this recurring thing. Number 2, you're training harder than you're recovering. Or number 3, you're ignoring small signals until they become big problems. If you know that your shoulders are tight or immobile in a certain direction, you do nothing about it, you've got a knee that requires a little extra warm up before going into the workout, and you just kind of consistently ignore doing something about that, the twinge in your back, those are early warning systems. The coaches, the athletes here at CrossFit Edwardsville have heard me use this term before. Sometimes you get a warning shot from the Lord, you get a warning shot from the universe in your back, your knee, whatever. Some days it just doesn't feel quite right, and you'll get a couple warning shots like, take it easy on this movement today. And when you get those warning shots from the Lord or the universe, you should be paying attention to them. They're a sign, maybe not today on this one thing. Make the adjustment, make the modification. Because pushing through a little pain often leads to bigger breakdowns down the road. My advice is to address these small issues early, proactively address them before they metastasize into something bigger and badder. You want to deal with DART before DART becomes a full Demogorgon. Shout out to my Stranger Things fans out there. A fourth reason that could be driving these recurring things, you may be lacking balance or structural balance. What do I mean? I'm getting kind of physical therapy here, right? Because there are common imbalances in people being more quad dominant versus glute or hamstring dominant. Most people are more quad dominant than hamstrings and glutes, and that's actually an anterior to posterior imbalance in your musculature. This is a bigger topic that I can fully explore in this podcast, but if you've ever heard something like this, or if you just get the feeling that your quads are just way stronger than your glutes and your hammies, that is something you probably want to address with your coach. Ask them about it and how you can address this. How can you fix this? Also, overhead activity, being stronger through the muscles of your delts and your triceps or your lats versus your actual scapular control, your ability to control what your shoulder blade does. Because when we're talking about, say, overhead activity with lifting or with pull-ups, your shoulder, quote unquote, is actually a combination of the humerus, the long bone of the upper arm, your clavicle, the collarbone, and the scapula, the triangle-shaped bone on the top of your back. The articulation of those three bones is your shoulder complex, your shoulder girdle. And a lot of folks are stronger, especially true for guys, they're stronger in their muscles than they are actually, able to stabilize and control with a lot of the smaller muscles like the rotator cuff muscles, the upward rotators, like the serratus anterior. You might be lacking some periscapular motor control. You may be lacking some stabilization capacity versus your raw brute strength. And that matters if you're doing aggressive things like variations of pull-ups, overhead squats, and more. It's a consideration in this. Also, your core strength is a direct line of sight to your ability to maintain a neutral spine to maintain good spine position during exercise. And that is a safety concern too. You want to have that core strength to preserve good position of your head and neck, your upper back, your lower back during activity, not just exercise. If you lack that core stability, you lack that core strength to hold static positions as you move your peripheral, like your limbs, for example, that could be a structural concern. And if you think you might be suffering from this, talk to your coach because they can assess whether this is a struggle for you and then give you some guidance about how to solve it as well. So that's point number 4. Point number 5, this is true in all manner of exercise endeavor. You are likely going to be experiencing recurring issues if you let your ego write the programming, is how I put it. If you let your ego run the show. In CrossFit world, this is where maybe you're choosing RX if you shouldn't. You're skipping warm-ups, trying to go straight to heavy lifts without building up gradually across your strength work, training like you're 25 years old when you're 45 years old. Look, guys, like, more is not always better. Better is better. And you should always be mechanics first, quality first before load, all those things. Check your ego at the door. This is true for every exercise endeavor that you do. It's wiser to prioritize your long-term gains over just the short-term numbers, or even within this one training session, trying to do something that is more driven by ego than it is by what you actually want to get out of your training session. Chances are you want to have great energy, you want to have great strength, great flexibility to go out and live life to the fullest. If that's the goal, you don't need to PR every single day. You do need to, check your ego at the door and move with excellence. Don't move with ego. So, point 5. Now, to kind of recap what we've talked about here, there are 5 major drivers of recurring injury: sloppy movement, under recovery, ignored warning signs, imbalances, and ego exercising. Because it's important that you recognize injuries are not inevitable. Like, they're not the major ones, are not inevitable. They're often the results of these small, recurring bad habits that go unchecked. You know if I'm talking about you. Don't let your ego, don't let your pride get in the way of making the adjustments now before it's too late. So, guys, I hope this episode has been valuable to you and given you some insight on how you can live your best, exercise your best, and go out there and do it without having the recurring stuff happen over and over and over again. I want to hear from you. Which of these most resonated with you, or which of these do you feel like you need to take and put into action now? Post the comments below. We love to hear from you guys. For now, I thank you for the gift of your time and your attention, and I'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks for listening to my dad's podcast. For more useful tools and guidance, go to CrossFitEdwardsville.com and feel free to like, share, subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comment sections down below. See you in the next episode.